Oh, you're welcome.
Morning and take it.
And very special thanks to Laura, who saved me in the technology world this morning, because I had this whole different plan, and she's like, oh no, I'll help you. So yeah, thank you. So today we're going to cover how to make a purchase. We'll talk a little bit about how to do a request for payment and when to do what. We'll cover budget transfers and just a tiny bit about travel. I don't go into depth in travel because by the time you travel, you will have forgotten everything. So please, when you're ready or you have to approve a travel form, give me a call. I'd be happy to walk you through that. In fact, I'd be happy to do a separate travel at a different time. But today we're going to focus on making purchases, and I teach this class by just making purchases. So let me go ahead and get started. So you come into the portal and you select financial information. And there's two areas I want to point out to you. First, up here you can view your budget. If you're not sure of your account number, you can click on Apply Filter, and any accounts assigned to you will populate. Now, I only have access to the Professional Development Center budget. You only have access to your budgets. So for today, we're going to work from my budget. Just want to point that out to you. So if you click here, I'm going to real quick show you each of the different columns. So this first column here, budget, that's the money that you're given July 1st. Our fiscal year runs July 1st to June 30th. So on July 1st, you're given a bucket of money, and that has to last you the entire year. So right now we're all pretty flush with money because it's only October, but you got to keep in mind it goes quick. So this number right here, it's called a GL code or an object code. And that describes what it is that you're purchasing. And I really find it easier to think about how you're using the item when you're deciding what object code to use. For example, if I buy a widget and I use it to teach students, it's an instructional supply. If I use it to teach employees, it's a meeting expense. And if I use it to store pens on my desk, it's an office supply. And it's pretty easy when you're in a hurry and I don't have money in this object code, so I'm just going to put it in meeting expense. Don't do that, please. The purchose of object codes is that it gives college leadership as well as the state a big picture view of how we're spending our money. Why are we still spending this much money in office supplies when everything's online? So it is important to use the correct object code. It's also extremely easy to transfer money into the correct object code. So keep that in mind. So this first column is the money you get July 1st. Actuals are items that you have purchased, they've been received, and the invoice is paid. It's a done transaction. Encumbrances is transactions that are in process, but the money's already gone. You bought something, maybe it hasn't been delivered, maybe it hasn't been paid for yet, but the money's gone. And this last column is the money that's left over. This is what you have left to get you to the end of the fiscal year. Now, one really important thing to keep in mind is that the purchasing process literally shuts down like the end of February or the very beginning of March. So you have March, April, May, and June that you have to plan for. You will get an email from the business office that will say, get all of your purchasing done by the end of February. Take that very seriously. It's not that you can't make purchases afterwards, but you're going to get a phone call saying, why? Why didn't you plan for this? And there really is a very good reason. In order to close the books on June 30th, everything has to be ordered, delivered, and paid for so that the business office allows themselves a chunk of time for all that to happen. Now, if you bought 12 books because you have 12 students and you end up with 18 students, so you buy 6 more books, that's a good, reasonable explanation. No problem. Don't worry about stuff like that. What the business office wants to be careful of is, why are you ordering office supplies from Amazon on June 1st? It just makes their life hard. So keep that one rule in mind. Everything should be done by the end of February. Yes, ma'am.
Do you prefer that I hold questions to the end, or?
No, I think we're okay. Go ahead.
How long does it take for the budget to actually reflect what's current? So, for instance, a purchase that was made last week, how long does it show up on the actuals column?
It's a good question, and it's really connected to how fast is the item delivered and invoiced. And then it takes, a lot of the payments have to go through the board. So it could be like, once I receive the item, I get the invoice, I sign it, I send it in. If the board meeting is not for 25 days, then it's going to be 25 days. Okay.
Thank you.
They don't pay things till it's approved by the board. Yes?
Could you tell me again when, is it July that you said that the start of it is? So is it July to February?
July 1st to June 30th,
But really
technically.
February.
But they want you to finish purchasing by the end of February. And you will get an email reminding you of that. But even by January, I'm starting to think, what do I need for the next 4 months? Because that's a chunk of time to plan for. Okay, so let me go back here. And now we're going to do some purchasing. So I click on requisitions, and a nice thing about Ellucian, that's the program that we're in, is that I can see everything I've ever bought. And if I click on it, I can even see the details. So when I'm wondering what I did for last St. Patrick's Day, I can go back and look for it. But we want to create a new requisition. So we click here. Under document type, you have the choice of requisition or payment request. Almost everything you do is a requisition. The few exceptions are if you're paying an independent contractor, if you're paying for membership or for a conference, that may be a payment request. But for the most part, if you leave it at requisition, good chance you're going to be safe. So this populates automatically. Your name goes in. You can only ship it to Triton. And then it asks for the vendor ID. And really, it's just the vendor name that you have to put in here. So I'm going to purchase from this company. It's really helpful to only put in a portion of the name. If I put in Discovery Incorporated, it's not going to find it. But if I put in just Discovery, it will give me options. So that's the first column. That's the only thing that I need to populate. This middle column here, I don't really need to complete at all. You can see some of it auto-populated, In terms of desired date, there's a better way to request that information. So then you come to the last column, and in Illusion, the approvers will auto-populate. You don't have to worry about that. Under printed comments, you are communicating with the vendor. So it's really good practice to every time say, please ship and invoice using the purchase order number. That makes everybody's job so much easier. Shipping can easily find you. Danielle knows what the item is. So include that one sentence, but then you can also say anything else. You can say, I need this by November 1. I prefer the blue widget. Whatever you want to tell the vendor, this is where you do it. Internal comments, you are communicating with everybody who touches this system internally. So for example, I always say deliver to E210. There is another Susan Rohde who works here, and I don't want her getting my widgets. And then I can also say, if something is more than $2,500, I need 3 bids or 3 quotes. So I can tell purchasing that I emailed the 3 quotes to your email. And then I can even tell my boss what this is for so that he doesn't have to stop and call me and say, why are you buying widgets? So this is for the fall widget class. All right, any questions? All right.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
If we use the other option, the payment request, does that actually have to process membership? Do we still say invoice it with a PO number, or how does that work then?
Probably you don't. If you're paying for a membership or for a conference, you have an invoice or you have some kind of a registration.
Just send it to
purchasing? Just send that to purchasing. So you could say, I sent my registration page to your email so that you know what the money's for.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay. So then you scroll down here, this AP type, you have several options. Don't touch it. That's the one thing you can do to break Illusion. Don't touch this. Tax codes you don't have to populate. And now you're ready to make a purchase. So we are going to buy a widget. Now the quantity and the unit really depends on how the vendor packages things. Do I need 12 blue widgets, or do I need 1 dozen or 1 box? So you'll get that information from the catalog. So I'm going to order 1 box, and the box cost $250. So in your little folders, you have a laminated sheet, and it tells you when you need to get approval and when you don't. So if something costs $250, how many bids do you need? Just the one. Just the one that you're sending in. So for your GL account, if you scroll down, this is where you decide where you're going to, what category it fits into. So for me, because I'm teaching employees, this is a meeting expense. Quantity is 1. Okay. I don't know why this is acting goofy. Okay. Why is this happening? 1.0, 10.
Is Danielle online? Susan?
I don't think
Okay. I
she
thought you
is
could ask
on.
her.
Oh, Danielle is saying the link's not working, Laura.
Okay, because you can ask. I'll send her another one.
Thank you.
She should be able to.
Okay, so where am I at? I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, so maybe it's 0.02. No, I can't be. 1.2. Which, this has never happened before. Okay, you know, I'm gonna get out of here and just try it again. Add a GL count. What the heck? Now it's all lit up. Yay.
Sorry. Maybe we can come back to that. Once Danielle is online.
Okay, you know what? I am going to jump out of here for a minute because it's just. I'm not gonna do all of this, just I want to show you how to actually buy something. One each, $250. Oh, look, now it's
No, it's
working.
fine.
So now I'm gonna add an item. Now be careful, because this says save, but it really means submit. Don't think you can save this and come back to it. You can't. As soon as you hit save, it's gone. So if I need to buy another item, I'm just gonna get one more widget. Okay, I add that item, and now I save it. And another nice thing about Ellucian is that up until the point that this has been approved by somebody, this will automatically go to your associate dean or your dean and then the vice president. But up until the point it's been approved, I can click on this and I can edit it if I need to. I can also delete it if the class canceled. And then I can also look at the line items and see what I've done. So, but once it has been approved by even one person, then you need to call Danielle and get her involved. Any questions? Okay, so I am going to delete this just because I make Perva nervous when I keep buying widgets. So, all right. Now, that's whether you're purchasing a widget or you're purchasing a new desk. The process is the same. Just if your new desk is more than $2,500, it's gonna get refused, first of all. But second, let's say it does go through, you will need to submit 3 similar quotes to purchasing. If it's more than $25,000, this is the coolest desk ever, it has to go through a formal bid process, which means it has to be posted in the newspaper. You have to reach out to minority vendors. So you need to allow yourself 90 days for that big of a purchase, because the formal bid process takes a long time. So the process doesn't change, and purchasing will help you through the formal bid process. You don't have to do that, but you have to know to leave yourself enough time. So don't order that new desk January 1st, because you're going to run into that February deadline. Questions? No. Okay. I would like to show you how to purchase from Amazon, because that's what we do, and it often makes a lot of sense. Good pricing on Amazon. So you come here and you would just, am I signed in? Oh, okay, Amazon. You just shop like you would online. Before you purchase from Amazon, though, you have to reach out to purchasing and ask for access to Triton's business account. Don't order from your own account and submit the receipt. It's not going to go well. You have to be connected to Triton's account. And right up here, where normally your name will be, it will say your name for Triton College. Be sure you order from that account. So I am going to buy a widget from Amazon. I don't even know what a widget is. Okay. Oh, this is a good widget. So I'm going to buy this. Just like with Amazon, I add it to my cart, or I can just buy it now. Now this screen will look different because you're ordering from Triton's account. And essentially what happens is it'll ask you for a purchase order number, which you don't have yet. So just put in a dummy number, 123. Purchasing will correct it before submitting it. So you go through all the screens to order it, say where to deliver it, and then in this area it will say purchasing will release the item once it's been approved by everybody. So it just sits in your cart until you come back here and you create a requisition. The vendor is Amazon. I don't need to do anything with this. No, I don't have to populate approvers. Printed comments, I'm not going to ask Amazon to use the purchase order number because they either will automatically or not. They're not going to read my comments, so I don't bother. But internally, I might explain where I want it shipped, what it's for, all of that information. I come down here, I put in a description, and it has to match the Amazon information exactly. When you put these items in your cyberspace account, you get an email telling you each item that was ordered, and you have to itemize. You can't say Amazon order. You actually have to say a widget. Whoops, I already did that. Widget is one each. The price is $25. And then if you ordered another set of pencils, you have to put that in. Don't say Amazon order. Won't get you anywhere. You put in your GL account again, and you hit save. Now, once everything is approved, purchasing will see this requisition, they'll go into the Amazon account and they will release the order. So it works very smooth, very nice, but don't count on like next day delivery because that may not happen depending on how fast it's approved. So keep that in mind. But it's okay to purchase from Amazon, just connect to Triton's account. Same is true with Office Depot. Office Depot is the preferred vendor for office supplies. So connect to Office Depot's account, shop online, it goes in a cart, fill out a requisition. Questions about Amazon or Office Depot? Okay. I want to show you just real quick one more, which is ordering any kind of catering on campus. So if you have students coming in and you want to order 10 pizzas, it must be done through our cafeteria. Tri-Cafe, that's the name of the company, Bob, if you've met him, has sole rights to all catering. It is not okay to order from Domino's and submit the receipt. Not going to go well. Plus, Bob makes really good pizzas, so it's okay to order from him. And the way that happens is you just come in here. If you put in dining in the search bar, campus dining, and you scroll down, this is all of Bob's information. So you can look at the menu. These are the procedures for ordering. So essentially you just fill out this request form, put in what you want, your account information, timing, and you send that to Bob. You don't create a requisition at this point. So what happens is after the event, Bob will send an invoice to the accounting office. They'll send it to you. That's when you go in and create a requisition. So you just come in here. Again, we'll get rid of Amazon, and I can just put in Tri-Cafe. So you create a requisition, but again, it's important to itemize. You can't say pizza party for the students. It has to be 10 pizzas, 100 sodas, 100 cookies. So be sure you itemize. Bob always charges a $10 service charge for delivery, so you have to put that in as well. So this is a service charge. It's $1 each, and the price is $10. So you just add that to your line as a line item, just like pizzas and sodas and service charge. Okay, now if you are buying a birthday cake for your department, you're paying for it, you don't need to go through Bob. You may want to, his pricing is good, but you don't have to. Excuse me. But if you're using Triton's money, it has to go through Bob. There are exceptions. I'm only going to talk about this for a second. Let's say you find, we had this when we bought churros. He charged like $1.25 for each churros. A Mexican bakery, it was fabulous, charged like 75 cents. So I just talked to Bob. I said, can you meet this price? He said, no way. I said, okay, then I'm going to request that you give me the right to, go ahead and order from the bakery. I filled out a little form. It was good. You will find Bob extremely reasonable to work with. All right. Questions on catering? All right. So that's purchasing. The important thing is you follow the rules in terms of bids. You leave plenty of time, and come mid-February, start planning for the rest of the fiscal year. All right. So another thing I would like to show you is budget transfers. And you do budget transfers when you're moving money from one object code to another. You don't do it to move money from education to sociology. That's not okay. That's a conversation with the dean and with Vice President Campos. But if you're just moving money from one object code to another, I can go to this conference, but I have no travel money, but I can take it out of meeting expense. That's when you do a budget transfer. You also cannot, one second, Justina. You also cannot move money from a personnel line. When I come here and I look at my budget, let me come back here real quick. If I look at my budget, everything up here is a personnel line as opposed to a supply. I can't move money. So I've had a position open for 6 months. I've got $30,000 wanting me to spend. Don't buy widgets unless you've talked to your boss, and it will not be approved. So that's not the reason for a budget transfer. Justina, you had a question?
I don't know the answer, but I need the confirmation. Let's say I'm going to a conference, there is not enough money in one object code. Can I fill out the budget transfer and the requisition at the same time, or do I have to transfer the money first? The money is there and then conference. And I'm asking because the conference is coming up, so
Okay.
I don't know how much time it's gonna take for the transfer, then for the approval. Can I do it all at the same time?
You should be okay doing both at the same time, because your first step in the travel process is just requesting approval. So on the request, it's not going to block you because you don't have the money. Oh, Jeanette?
Yes, it will.
Oh,
It will not be approved if there's no money on that budget line.
okay.
But if you complete a budget transfer, they can see that you did the transfer, even if it hasn't been approved by the board yet. So like,
Okay.
when I see a travel request, I see the budget line, I'll approve it, but when it goes up beyond me,
Uh-huh.
as the dean, when it goes above me, they'll look to see, I think the, whatever business office will look to see if there's money on that line first.
Okay, thank you, Jeanette. I appreciate that. So, yes, you can do it as long as you can say I've done the budget.
And talk to your dean,
Transfer.
or if you're the dean. Right, for faculty, just make sure, or chairs, make sure you talk to your dean, so your dean knows that you're about to do this travel request, and that you're gonna do a, budget transfer. Then the dean will approve it, and they can always say to VP Campos, the transfer is coming, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was told by
Go
the purchasing department, is that the right department, that they prefer to pay for the conference. If they're going to pay for it, they prefer not to reimburse. I got my hand lightly slapped this semester because I had some issues with registration for a conference, which
Okay.
is not on me.
Uh-huh.
It was more on the system that that conference was using.
Yeah.
But when I talked to her on the phone, she was like, we, in the future, make sure we pay for this. So I think that's part of the reason why.
Another good point. So, any others? Sam?
I was gonna ask, on the request to fill out when you're talking about the conference, is there like that comment box for internal, just like everything else, where if you were doing both at the same time, say, hey, listen, I filled out the request to move the budget, the money from line item to line item, this is coming along as well. Would the board see that, or is that just not?
It's not on the travel request.
Oh, it's not on, all right, I was just curious if that same thing happened.
Great question, yeah, but it's not on the travel request.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And when we talk about these little technicalities, like what do I do first and what if I don't have the money? When I started working here, I had come from an environment where you need something, no big deal, you run to Target, you get a receipt, you get reimbursed, life goes on. No. Triton's system works extraordinarily well when you follow the process. And it is not set up to run to Target and submit your receipt. That's why you don't order from your own Amazon account and submit the receipt. And honestly, my first month working here, I was gonna rip my hair out because I got my hand slapped 100 times. And I didn't get it. But keep in mind, we are a government organization. We are buying things with taxpayer dollars. That's why the business office is extremely strict and transparent, and they will work with you to follow the rules, not necessarily help you a lot if you didn't. So please follow the rules, plan in advance. Now, there are things, and Sam, I could see this working for your department, where you do need to just run out and buy something. In fact, a better department would be automotive. Someone brought a car in and I need to get a new battery. I'm teaching the students about batteries. I'm just going to run to AutoZone and get a battery. There's something called a blanket purchase order that allows you to do that. I don't want to waste our time today going into that process. Another good example is culinary, which has to run to Jewel 3 or 4 times a week to get fresh food. They have a blanket purchase order. They go there, they get the item. So know that if your department runs that way, call Danielle and talk about a blanket purchase. Yes, ma'am.
Where can we get a tax exempt letter?
It's available on, let me show you this real quick, because a lot of people don't know this exists. Okay, so if I go to Employee Resources, there is an electronic resource guide. Who knows about the electronic resource guide? Couple? Okay, good. So if you come down here, you will find an awful lot of the forms that you need. Is there a tax form on here? I think there is, but if not, talk to purchasing. They'll get you a tax form.
Thank you.
But then I would also ask why you need one, because if you're going through the purchasing process, you don't need a tax exempt.
Vendors asking for it.
Oh, a vendor, okay, no problem at all. So yeah, that is probably in here, or Danielle will get that for you. But this electronic resource guide is pretty cool. If you need to hire an independent contractor, so you have someone who's coming in and talking to your class about a very specific piece of equipment or subject, and this is the best way for them to learn, and it's been approved. Before that person can come in and talk to your class, they should do an you should do an independent contractor form. And all that information is in here. All right. Shakina?
Forgive me if you said this already. I'm sorry, I was talking to another.
No worries.
I've also heard that you could do kind of a blanket travel request form as
Yes,
well.
you can.
Because I'm curious how that would work. Like I know that when you go to conferences and stuff, you have your miles, you know where you're going,
Yeah.
all the things. But if you have to do, like when we do the lighting days and we're off campus, or if we're doing library visits, how do you fit all of these different things off campus, different dates into one request?
I have the answer, and I'm going to give you a real big picture answer, and then I'd be happy to work with you one-on-one. But this happens a lot with like healthcare. I have to go see my students working at the hospital. I travel once a week. So you complete the travel request form for the academic quarter or for the month, with a reasonable amount of time. Shouldn't go more than an academic semester. You request approval and you explain that I have to visit high schools, I have to do this, I have to go to the hospital. that request will be approved. Then you fill out the claim for reimbursement, maybe once a month. It would be good to do the claim for reimbursement for all the travel you did in September. And you fill that form out, you submit your receipts, that gets approved, then you do a check request for that month. But the approval for travel can cover the entire semester. Or maybe you want to do it quarterly, whatever works for your department. And I put a document in your folders about travel, because we're not going to have time today to talk much about travel. When you have to travel, call me and I will walk you through the process. But a couple things to keep in mind is it's a 3-step process, and it must start with the request for approval. If you didn't request approval, you go on this conference, you're gonna have a hard time getting reimbursed. Don't put yourself through that. The other thing to keep in mind is you decide to go to a conference, it's in your budget, but this is the conference you want, and you got a $99 round trip Google flight, I can afford this. Don't. All travel has to be booked through Triton's travel agency. So when you're filling out the travel request form, don't say the cost of the airline is $99, because that rate could be long gone. Put in a hefty number that's regular travel, just in case that's what the travel agent can get. Because once you've done the request for travel and it's been approved, they are not going to pay for any more than 10% over that number. So if your flight was $400 and you only requested $99, you're in a bind. Okay, that's probably the most important thing to know about travel right now. Don't jump on that Google flight deal. All right. Any other questions? And then let me go back to budget transfers. All right. So while the process we were just doing was in Ellucian, budget transfers are done in DocuSign. So I come over here. DocuSign is under Business Services. I click on DocuSign. This is a lot of good information. You scroll down here and you want the budget transfer form. Because this is training, I'm going to use a training form, but the process is exactly the same. Anytime you go in DocuSign, the first screen that you get is this one. You have to put in the names of yourself and then all the approvers. Excuse me. Okay, and because I'm the person making this request, but I'm also the cost center manager, this will be true for many of you, you have to fill in both fields. And then if this is a grant fund, you put in that information, and then whatever your approval process is, the associate dean, the associate vice president, and for, I think, all of you, the associate vice president would be Sue Campos. And then you come down here and you click on Begin Signing. And you get this field that asks for an access code. That access code will be emailed to you. It's going to take just a second to come in. Excuse me. don't know if Danielle, do you know if Danielle is on?
Yes,
She is?
was on and,
Okay,
there was she couldn't hear you and.
Okay.
What the trouble is, but she's back on now. So I'm gonna go bring her
so Danielle is in charge of purchasing. So she is the go-to person for help with purchasing. If I can help you with process, I'm glad to do that. I'll run through and show you how to do something. What I can't do is override anything, tell you where to get good deals on t-shirts. That's what Danielle can help you with. But do keep in mind that Danielle and one other person do purchasing for the entire college. So that's why you want to help her out by telling the vendor to use the purchase order number. I don't know why my oh, no. I can't go forward if I don't have my, huh. DocuSign. I put in the right email address.
Danielle said to check your junk mail.
Oh, no, that's not it. Junk?
Yeah.
No? Maybe it's just having a slow morning. Wow. This is not my day.
Maybe try again.
Try a different, doing the whole process again. Certainly worth a try.
Your email is.
So I'm gonna get budget transfer. Let me put in just one approval person. Isn't this wild? Well, maybe I will teach you to do budget transfers at a different time.
Let's just do that.
Yeah, I don't want to waste your time. So what kind of questions do you have about purchasing? Oh, yay! I bet this is going to be the first one. So what you do is grab this code here and you just copy and paste it. Incorrect code. Let's see if another one comes in.
First one.
I have a question while you are waiting.
Okay.
When it comes to the budget transfers, what's the, I guess, rationale? Because like, as an example, like I know that sometimes when we're looking to do some programming, and let's say we want to purchase candy for, the students as an extra little whatever, and we are already out of our office supply budget, and then thankfully I have Amy to help me with a lot of this, but I just want to be able to know for myself, like, how do I know what the rationale is to move money from one place to another?
That's a good question. When you do a budget transfer, you have to answer two questions. The first one is, How can you afford to move money out of this account? You said you needed it at the beginning of the year. So you have to put in a business reason. Keep in mind, the budget transfer is seen by the vice president, the board, and the community. So don't put things in there like, things changed. Purchasing told me to. Somebody wrote that in, that didn't go over well either. You have to give a business reason for it. So if, let's say you need candy and you're taking it out of office supplies, you can say, I had office supplies left from last year, so I don't need to buy as much this year. I guess if you had to, you could say, this event is a new opportunity to get into the Melrose Park community, so it's really important, much more important than office supplies.
And these are their specific ones, like as an example, I know that as faculty, we have a budget for professional development and going to conferences and things. But then if I have non-faculty staff and things arise for them to do an off-campus conference at a, maybe even at another college or something, could I move money for, like if I have enough for like 2 people to go, but it would be really great for 4 people to go because it affects all of them. Would I move money from like meeting expenses or, like is it specific lines that only can move from one place to another?
The only rule is you can't move money from a personnel line to a non-personnel line.
Okay.
And for some reason, you can't move money out of copier charge. Every budget year, I get $300. And I'm like, I don't need $300 to make copies. You can't move that.
For the copier, so people understand, for that copier, every budget gets a $300 line, whether you use it or not, but it's across the entire campus. Because I have to ask a question, like, we don't go for $300, and a lot of my departments don't. And then I have some departments that go more than $300.
Right.
So it balances itself out, so don't worry about that copier when you're budgeting, it's gonna be there no matter what, and you can't touch it.
So, but to answer your question, it's really a decision for the cost center manager and maybe your dean, because you have to have a good explanation, and the business office watches the money very closely, which is their job. That's not a disparaging comment, but they're gonna say, why do 4 people have to go? And those are the kind of questions you have to answer. Okay. The other thing I want to mention is if you need to buy candy, let's say you have 100 students coming in and you want to give them snacks, that's it. So that's what you are allowed to work outside of the cafeteria to buy, like individual snacks, like, usually they have chips out here or something. You can usually go around Bob, because Bob doesn't want to bother with that either. But now I used to order on Amazon 2 cases of chips, 4 cases of cookies, and that lasted me 6 months. Can't do that anymore. Now the rule is you have to go to Costco.
And I'll say, at least, maybe it's different now, we have a new dean, but we used to, that was not approved. Like, you can't buy candy for your classroom, or like, say you're going to clinicals and you want to bring them a little treat. That was never approved. Like, Pam would be, if you want that, you gotta pay for it yourself.
Okay, and I can understand that, but that is sometimes, if you're bringing like students in, high schoolers in, it might make perfect sense. But you're right, you can't just give candy to the classroom. You can't get, a little prize for someone's birthday. You can't do it. Jeanette, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I'll say, you just said the last part I was gonna say. You can't purchase like candy stuff for your class and things like that, but if it's like you have an organized club, or you have a symposium or something like that that's for the students,
Mhm.
then you can purchase them, but you can't just purchase for, I want to get Halloween candy for
Right.
my students. You can't do that.
Right.
And you can't purchase snacks for your faculty or your staff.
Okay, yes,
So how do you purchase through Costco?
you just decided not to, it's so frustrating.
We asked to do that for our event last week because they didn't put in the order through Amazon.
Yeah.
What we
Well, it
wanted.
wouldn't have been approved through Amazon.
Well, it was for like some widgets and some individualized snacks for
Okay.
the World Mental Health Day.
Let me tell you what I know about snacks, because, oh, it used to be so wonderfully easy. And, so you have to go to Costco and price out the snacks. So I need 10 cases at $5 each. Then you come back here and you do a request for payment. You're not doing a purchase order, you're doing a request for payment because it has to be under $750. And you're going to, okay, just do the request for payment. Then you submit that, it gets approved. The business office will cut a check for you to Costco. So you'll go to the business office, you'll pick it up, and you'll run to Costco, and you will make your purchase. They'll give you Triton's Costco card, and you will make the purchase. Now, in the meantime, the price has changed. It's just hard. It's just hard. So that's all I can tell you about that, but that's the process. Get the price, do a request for payment, get the check, run to Costco. Okay. So, what other questions?
What's the turnaround time on that check?
It's pretty fast. They will help you out with that. So, I have found purchasing and accounting will do everything they can to help you, but they will not circumvent process.
Excuse me, Susan, Danielle is saying prices with Costco last for a month.
So all of this has to be completed.
Okay,
And sometimes their advertised price changes, you have to make sure you look on that. I took pictures with my cell phone, so I see when the expiration date is. And if it expires in 2 weeks, then I only have this accomplished in 2 weeks, then I gotta start over.
yeah, I mean, I one particular time I had to put in like $6 of my own money, and it's like, oh, it's just not worth making a fuss over this.
One more thing, she says, we usually turn over checks in 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Accounting, purchasing, really accommodating, but they won't circumvent process. Any other questions? All right, I am always available if you want to just run through something with me. When you're ready to travel, give me a call, I will be happy to. Uh-oh.
Again,
Yeah.
I said this in the first half hour. So what about technology? Like, let's say you need technology.
Okay.
The way I understand it, and I just need like the step by step. It's like whenever you say, well, I want to purchase this, and then we have to ask our technology people to get the price.
Yeah, Mike Garrity has to approve everything related to technology. We have so many deals or contracts with different vendors. So like a good example is Adobe Pro. If you need Adobe Pro, they'll get it for you, but don't just talk to them first. Don't go through the whole purchase order process and wait for it to be approved. It's easier to shoot Mike an email or the help desk and say, I need Adobe Pro. They'll help you with it. But all technology has to go through IT. Other questions? Okay, We have a reuse it room. Everyone knows about the reuse it room? No? In the J building, second floor, there's a little room over there, so if you need a binder, you go there and there are 300 binders to choose from. It's some of the older stuff, like file folders, hundreds of them over there. If you need any of that stuff, I go over there when I need to get out of my office and just shop. In case there's something cool over there. So that is the reuse it room. You just sign what you're taking. You don't have to do anything except say, I took 5 binders.
You can also, if you have stuff that you don't need anymore, you can take over there.
Good point.
And I would say when you're ordering supplies for like your office, always go to the reuse room first, because I have literally had some of my requisitions decline for office supplies because I was told go to reuse it first. So always go check there first before you do any kind of requisition for these supplies. Yeah.
All right, you're
Thank you, Susan.
taking over?
Yes.
I'll get rid of all this.
I don't need, you can take your time now.
Okay,
Thank you, Susan.
you're welcome.
Okay, so I know we have 24 minutes, this should not take that long. So I just handed you